Hello. Hi guys. Hi Nitish. Hi Divakar. Hi Keshav. Hi Akshay. Hi guys. This is the first time we're doing a Sunday morning session. I'll just wait for the people to join in and then I'll get on board Sambodhi. How is it going? So the lockdown has been extended. I hope you guys are keeping yourself busy and occupied and safe. Guys, please don't forget to post in your questions in the question mark that you see on your screens, and we'll try to answer as many as possible. And please keep the comments coming. We want to make this really interactive. Hi Sanskar. Hi Mayank. Okay, so just a bit about today's session. So this is about advice to the younger me doing an MBA from abroad, and about Sambodhi. He's been my friend from Stephen's days. We both did our undergrad in economics from St. Stephen's College, batch of 2014. And hi guys. And he's an MBA candidate at Columbia Business School, and he's an ex-investment analyst as well as an investment banker. He's currently looking to join McKinsey and Company, and let's get him on board straight. Hi Sambodhi, can you send me the request? Just waiting for Sambodhi to get online.
Hi, can you see me now?
I can't see you yet,
I can't see you yet.
but I can definitely
Yeah.
hear you, and
But
now
I
I
can
can see you
definitely
as
hear
well.
you, and now I can see you as well.
Hi
Yeah,
Sambodhi.
Instagram, I think
Hi,
by
Sambodhi.
default had my. I think Devika has joined. Hi, Devika.
Oh, hi Devika.
Interesting.
She's a
Oh, hi,
senior.
Devika. She's our senior.
I hope to
We,
have
I
many
hope to
such
have many such
moments of
moments of
epiphany.
epiphany.
I see Vaishali
I see
also.
Vaishali also. Yes, I see
Hi
Vaishali as well.
Vaishali.
Hi, Vaishali.
So guys, these are
So,
all our
guys, these are
seniors
all our
from
seniors
Stephens,
from Stephens,
and they've been very,
and
very
they've been very,
kind.
very kind.
So yeah, Sambodhi,
So, yeah, Sambodhi.
what's up? I know
What's
you're
up? I
reporting
know you're
live from New
reporting
York, and
live
it's
from New
really
York,
late for
and it's
you.
really late for you.
But you're
Yeah.
nocturnal,
But you're
so it's
nocturnal,
okay.
so it's okay. Yeah, we had a college party today, which just ended a few.
You're partying in
You're
lockdown.
partying in
That's
lockdown.
amazing.
That's amazing. No, it's a Zoom party.
Oh,
So,
that's still
yeah, party
having
over
having a life.
having a life. Yeah. So yeah, we had a pizza and beer party just before this. Yeah. excited.
I see people are saying that the voice is echoing.
Okay, let me try to put my earphones on. I was not able to hear you when I had my earphones on.
Okay.
To hear me?
I can hear you. If the
Why is
audience
my
can
video still
give
calling
some
up?
feedback. Are you guys able to hear us better now? Okay. Oh, my voice is echoing. Is it still echoing,
Okay.
guys? Ameya, can you please confirm? Okay, it's good to go. Yeah, so Sambodhi, why don't you start by introducing yourself a bit better?
Sure. I don't know what you have told them about me. So I am Sambodhi. I grew up in Cooch Behar, West Bengal. And after spending 13 years of my life there, I moved on to Delhi, finished my schooling in DPS Arkepuram. Then did economics honors from Stephens with Sucharita, who was my wonderful classmate there. So it's great to be interviewed by you today. And after that, I worked in investment banking for a year and investing in a hedge fund in India for around 3 years before I made the decision to come to Columbia Business School for my MBA. And after this, I am joining a consulting firm here. And in the long term, I plan to be an entrepreneur in India.
That's quite a lineup, Sambodhi, and an impressive one, I must say. So, guys, we've tried to define this entire video into 4 sections. So the first one is why MBA, the second is Indian versus foreign MBA, the third is about the application process, and the fourth is life after Columbia. So let's just head on to the first question then, Sambodhi.
Sure.
Yeah. So the first, as I mentioned, is why MBA. So the first question I'd like to ask you is why did you choose the path that you took, and what motivated you to do your MBA?
Sure. So just diving deep part, my pre-MBA thing. So I did economics, as I mentioned, from college, and after that, I chose a life of finance. I worked in investment banking and then investing in a hedge fund. So the peculiarity of a hedge fund or a private equity job in India is that they have this clear division, which is like you have this analyst roles, which is sort of a pre-MBA role, and then you're expected to go do an MBA, and after your MBA you come back as an associate and you are on a quote unquote track role to become a managing director or a partner in how many years it requires in a firm. So that is what would have happened if I would have continued in a hedge fund role. And the second thing is that if you are in a hedge fund, it doesn't really give you that opportunity to switch out to any other industry as easily as you would do in a sort of a data analytics role or a consulting role. So if I had to either progress in my industry from an analyst to an associate, or if I had to switch to any other industry, I had to go do an MBA.
Right.
So that's what really prompted me to go do an MBA.
That's nice, Sambodhi. Good to hear. And the second question to you would be, is work experience the best way to look forward to an MBA? And after how many years of work experience should one time an MBA from abroad?
Sure. So I'll take this question in two different angles. I'd say the first thing about an MBA, the MBA itself is a wonderful experience. The first part of the experience is what you are learning from the MBA process, and the second is how you are interacting with your peers during your MBA. So what you are learning during your MBA, I felt that if you have some sort of work experience before coming in, that really amplifies what you learn in your classroom. Let's say in your classroom, you're taught about supply chain analytics, you're taught about operation strategy. And if you have not done any of those things or even touched or do not know what any of those things mean to you, they will seem very abstract to you. Whereas if you have worked in a real company, they will have so much more meaning when you come to do your MBA. So from a personal learning perspective, your learning may be very, very amplified if you have some amount of work experience. And second, from the perspective of how you're interacting with your peers. See, I understand that in the Indian MBA context, people have much lesser work experience. A lot of people still join a great B school directly from campus. So if you are joining a B school in India after 4 or 5 years of experience, you may be slightly elder than your peers and you may not be able to like relate to them as easily as you would be if you were like 4 or 5 years younger. But in the foreign MBA context, for example, the average age at which Columbia, I'm like right now in Columbia Business School, at Columbia Business School, at the average age at which a person enters is 28 years. So that would mean that you have 4 to 5 years of experience in your belt before you have joined the B school. So that's the peer set that you are really interacting with. So if you have that 4 to 5 years of work experience before coming to do a foreign MBA, that really enhances both your learning as well as your peer interactions.
So this is pertaining to just foreign MBA that you're referring to, right? That the experience quite counts.
Yeah, so I would say that for the Indian MBA perspective, that learning is still amplified. It's not as necessary, like professors do understand that because the majority of the class is still coming in with almost no work experience or very limited work experience, they are like adjusting the course accordingly. But in a foreign MBA, like because most people are expected to have a work experience, so everybody just like professors are thinking in that level. So in an Indian MBA, I would say it is a good to have. It's not a must. In a foreign MBA, it's almost a must.
Right. So guys, any question pertaining to why an MBA in the first place? I do have some question postcards. Just see. Okay, so I have a question for you, which is quite interesting. So it says that this is by Sanket. So he asks, what were the difficulties you faced from being a small town boy to Columbia MBA candidate?
Oh wow, that is an incredible question and brings back a lot of memories. So I think the first part of the challenge was moving from Cooch Behar to Delhi. I think that was the biggest change in my life. And then moving from Delhi to Mumbai and then to New York was not that different. So when you're coming from a very, very small town setting and living in a metropolitan city in India, and particularly in my case, the shock was double because I came from living with family to a boarding school setup. Right. So those two setups really paved the way. But at that point of time, like when I came in class 11th, I knew that was the only way forward for me. My hometown did not have great educational opportunities after class 10th, and so I just had to move outside. So it could be any of the metropolitan cities, but I just knew that I had to move outside. And so if I had no other choice, I just went with it. Yeah.
Right. Also, did you have this is a personal question coming from me. Did you have like a role model to start with when you decided on taking this journey, or were you just taking your own path? Sorry.
Yeah, so that's again an interesting question. So I did not really have one particular role model per se. Like I never knew that when I switched to Delhi for my 11th, I never knew that I would be doing an MBA from Columbia Business School. So that was never like something that I had planned when I was 13 years old. So I had a few role models in my family whom I had seen across like different parts of India, who had grown up in different small towns and who had really like done tremendous things in their lives when they had gone to a much bigger metropolitan city, taken advantage of the better education system. Plus, I lived in a huge joint family with around 20 plus members, and I had two cousins who were elder to me, and both of them switched out of my hometown. Both of them went to Kolkata, and after that they got their engineering degree from there, and now they are both in the US. So I sort of followed roughly in their footsteps, you may say.
Yeah. Also, we have a question in the comment section, which is by Shan, and he's asking, isn't MBA becoming very common? Will it have any actual use in the future or not?
Sure, that's again a great question. If you think a lot of people think of the MBA, and I think that's a very fair thing to think about an MBA as an investment in yourself, and you would be thinking about something like a return on investment if you're making an investment. And like previously, just because of the demand supply situation, there were fewer MBA candidates and there were a lot more lucrative jobs at the other end, which were sort of restricted only to an MBA person. And therefore, the ROI of doing an MBA was tremendous. I think definitely that ROI is coming down in the sense that a lot more people are doing their MBA. So similar to what you have seen in the engineering degrees, right? Previously in India, there were not a lot of engineers. Suddenly there were like a lot of private engineering colleges. A lot more people were interested in being engineers, and sort of like the ROI of doing an engineering degree came down over time.
She is asking if you can explain ROI better to these guys.
Oh, sorry. ROI is return on investment. So it is basically the investment that you're making and what is the return that you're generating out of it. The return in this case is a better job, better life prospects, a higher salary, etc., etc. So in those cases, so sorry, I'm coming from a finance background. It's just some jargon stick with you like for a lifetime. Anyways, so the ROI is definitely coming down, but it has to be a personal call of whether if it is still a positive investment in your case or not. Like for example, if I think of someone who is going to be a coder throughout their life, is an MBA the right degree to do for a coding degree? Probably not. But if you are going to do something which is related to the world of management, etc., I guess the MBA still has a great value. Particularly in my case, as I explained, I was in a situation where if I had to move ahead in the hedge fund industry, then I had to do an MBA, and if I had to switch to any other career choice, then I had to do an MBA. So for me, it really made a lot of sense. So I think an MBA is also a really, really personal decision, and you have to weigh it's not only like whether to do an MBA or not, it's also about at what stage of your life do you want to do your MBA. Do you want to do your MBA? Yeah, immediately after your bachelor's degree or after a few years of work experience. Yeah.
Which actually brings me to the next question asked by So Not Sarcastic in the comments section. And she's asking, were you afraid of the financial burden of doing an MBA from Columbia?
Yeah, I think we were coming to that question later, but we can take it on right now. So definitely the total cost of doing an MBA from Columbia Business School is significantly more than that of doing from IIM Ahmedabad, where Sucharita is currently going to. And as I was half joking to her that her internship is almost paying for her entire IIM Ahmedabad journey, which will definitely not be the case here because the bill is so high. But again, so here you have to think more wisely about what investment, what is the return that you are getting from your investment. Like if your viewpoint is that you will immediately come and work in India after your MBA, it will probably not make that much financial sense unless you get a private equity or a hedge fund job back in India, which still manages to pay decent salaries at which you can pay back your education loan. Whereas if you're okay with working in the United States or working somewhere like the Europe or like the Middle East for a few years, then it doesn't make that much of a financial burden. But then you really have to think about like where do you see yourself in the short term? Do you necessarily see yourself in India versus do you necessarily see yourself in the US, etc., to have some of those like decisions. But coming to her question again, this is definitely one of the biggest financial decisions that you will take in your life, and there will be a lot of thought that you have to put into this about how do you structure your finances, like how much loan are you comfortable taking, are you able to get any scholarships, etc., etc. Like what kind of basically what kind of jobs are you looking at after the business school. Yep.
Right. So, okay, let's quickly move on to our next section, which is Indian versus foreign MBA. Okay, so my first question to you would be, what are the critical factors which you considered while going for a foreign MBA vis-a-vis pursuing one from IIM Ahmedabad? So just for a bit of background, Sambodhi did manage to get into IIM Ahmedabad, and as much as he would like to deny it, he actually rejected Ahmedabad. He deferred it for a year and then he rejected Ahmedabad for Columbia. So yeah, please go on, answer.
Yeah, so yeah, this is one of my favorite questions, and I still get asked that today. There are still a lot of Indian professors here in Columbia who keep on asking me why not IIM Ahmedabad, why Columbia, especially because my long-term goal, as I mentioned, is to be an entrepreneur in India. So from that perspective, I saw tremendous value of what an Indian MBA can give you as well. Just for context, I was working, the hedge fund that I was working before, it was a small hedge fund with just 5 people in the investment team. All 3 managing directors came from IIM Ahmedabad. They did fantastically well for themselves. Some of them are earning in millions today. So you can definitely reach that scale going from IIM Ahmedabad as well. And I saw more interestingly one thing, which is the power of your Indian network. So they had such an incredible network of their own. Plus, IIM Ahmedabad or any other IIM for that matter gives you such a great brand recognition in India throughout your life that they could just email anybody literally and then say that I am from IIM Ahmedabad this batch.
That's true, actually,
and that person would give them a meeting. And I would see so many people struggling to get, like in a hedge fund, like basically what we would try to do was to interact with the CEOs of many top Indian firms. And as you understand, it's very difficult to get an interview with a CEO or a CFO or a face-to-face, something like that. But for these guys, made it seem so easy that now I joke with people here that like when people say that, you know, meeting a CEO, like it's a big deal. Like business schools bring on a few CEOs, etc. during class. And I was like, I used to meet 100 CEOs a year. So that the power of their network was incredible. So when I was thinking about this, there were like probably 3 reasons why I decided to choose a foreign MBA over an Indian MBA. The first thing is experience. See, as I had mentioned previously, I had studied in Delhi for quite a while. I had gone to DPS RK, then I had gone to Stephens, and then I had interacted with very versatile and very, very smart people in my professional like career as well in India. So I think I saw a fair representation of people and the experience that I would get when I would be at Ahmedabad or at any other great IIM, as well as some of the some experience into the life afterwards, like where people would be, what kind of experience they would have. I think I had a fair amount of experience in that field. To validate my hypothesis, I had actually gone to Ahmedabad and stayed there for a few days to actually experience how life in IIM Ahmedabad is and what kind of like dreams and aspirations and hopes people have. Talked to a lot of people. It was not
quite revealing, because I didn't know that about you, and I've known you for about 9 years now.
So I had a few friends there who were like, you know, a lot of our friends had gone to IIM Ahmedabad, like you and I, we had taken the work experience route, but a lot of people had gone directly. So we had a lot of friends who were at Ahmedabad at that point of time. That made it very easy for me to interact with them, interact with a lot of different professors as well through the networks of my bosses. They got me in touch with a lot of different professors, a lot of different professionals as well who had come from Ahmedabad, and where I made the decision of Ahmedabad versus Columbia. So experience was number 1. The number 2, what I would say is, I think from the from the perspective of networking and from learning perspective, there was a very different thing which a US MBA would teach you, which an Indian MBA would not teach you in my sense. And particularly because I want to be an entrepreneur, I realized that the flavor of entrepreneurship is still not very common in an Indian business school, whereas it is very common in a US business school. And I would learn so much from, like, I had already studied and analyzed so many Indian companies. And I always see Indian markets doing something which is like 10 to 20 years later of what the US market is doing. So if I go to the US market and learn what people are doing here today, build my connections here today, because to be very honest, the top venture capitalists, etc., sit out of the US. So if I build my network here, then it would help me when I want to become an entrepreneur in India. So that was the second reason. And the third reason for me, which is a very personal reason, which is, it was just a dream. So like when I had come to RK Puram, I still believe that that was probably my best shot at getting through a US good school. I had bugged my parents a lot of times that please allow me to apply to a US school for my bachelor's degree, but they said that no, I want you to do your bachelor's in India. So I was heartbroken at that point of time. So when I got the opportunity to do my master's from the US, I just took it.
Okay, so we have another question which says, what hard skills and soft skills should someone suggest for someone who's planning to take up an MBA from either India or abroad? Okay, so that's a very difficult question to answer because but it's the right question to be thinking about because it depends from person to person. So an MBA so think of an MBA as not the end, but a means to an end. So you were somewhere and you want to go somewhere, and the MBA is a piece in the middle. So where you are and where you want to go, you have to see like what are the skills that you require in between, and can the MBA experience give you those skills? That's something that you really need to come from. For example, for my perspective, where I was coming from, I want to be an entrepreneur. Now, I knew that I had a lot of hard skills in the economic and financial realm because I did economics and then I did a lot of finance. So I think I had those bases covered. But the one hard skill which I did not have covered was sales. Like I just didn't know how to do sales. I had never done sales in my life. So I took a lot of courses during my business school, which taught me about how to do sales and marketing. Like some of the very first courses that I took was how to do sales in a B2B organization. And I just continued doing a lot of courses around that. And the second thing is I realized that like Indians are great. Like I don't want to generalize about Indians, but I was relatively, if I have to judge myself in hard skills versus soft skills, I was relatively better in the hard skills department, but not that great in the soft skills department. But an entrepreneur needs to be as equipped in soft skills as one needs to be in hard skills. So I really pushed the trigger on the soft skills department when I came when I was thinking about how to design my business school experience here. I did a lot of courses on like leading, on negotiations, on organizational change, and how to like drive policy in a company, how to lead through a crisis, and all of those things. So it's a mixture of like, some of the soft, like hard skills that I wanted to concentrate, and a lot of soft skills that I wanted to concentrate, so that at the end of the journey, I have some of those skills which I did not have previously to help me where I want to go in the future. Right. Yeah. I hope that answers your question, guys. So moving on to the next question. So as I mentioned, you had successfully deferred your admission at IMA. So what's the procedure for that, and how do you reckon one should actually decide whether or not to defer an MBA?
Sure. So I think when I was going through the process, that's why IIM Ahmedabad was definitely my top choice. It was that it gave the option for deferment. Like I don't think the option for deferment was available from a lot of other Indian colleges at that point of time. I think ISB gave that option in that 2+2 program. So if you had applied directly from college. You can choose to join ISB 2 years after getting 2 years of work experience, and then IIM Ahmedabad had this program. I think first of all the procedure for IIM Ahmedabad was pretty straightforward at that point of time. You would be given everybody would be asked, do you want to defer, yes or no? And people who did not have work experience were especially asked, like if they wanted to defer their thing, then it would be an easy decision. They would be like, you just have to write an application about why you want to defer, and they would defer it. For me, it was slightly tricky because I had a couple of years of work experience by that point of time, and a couple of years is what was very standard in the Indian business school. So I had to make up a reason why I wanted to defer it by a year. But yeah, they were successfully convinced by it. I don't think a lot of people actually chose the deferment option. I think in my year, because I was very, very paranoid about it, I actually went down to the admissions office of IIM Ahmedabad, befriended an admissions officer. I spoke to him in depth about how many people apply, etc., etc. I think the year before me, it was 100% acceptance rate in terms of how many people applied for deferment and how many people got it. In my year, I think it was 90%. So, if you applied for deferment, you're mostly sure that you would get one. And you have to obviously write a good application and everything, but it was like mostly given that you would get one. Now coming to why you want to defer, I think it's the primarily first reason. It's about about whether the choice of whether to get work experience or not. I think a lot of people have realized that getting that work experience and going to B school, even if you have 1 or 2 years of work experience, that's invaluable, and they have chosen to defer because of that.
So you already had work experience, right? So even despite having work experience, you deferred it, and the reasons would be?
For me, it was because of a timing mismatch. I had 2 years of work experience when I had applied to IIM Ahmedabad, which means I got in. I would start IIM Ahmedabad when I had 3 years of work experience. Whereas most business schools in the US, as I mentioned, like they have an average age of entry at around 28, and they require 4 to 5 years of work experience. So I was more confident applying to a US business school when I had 3+ years of work experience, so that I could join it when I had 4 years. So if I think about it, I was joining IIM Ahmedabad, like if I had to join, I was joining them when I was at 3 years of work experience, and I would join Columbia when I had 4 years of work experience. So that 1 year in between, I wanted to bridge that and make that both the options available to me at the same time.
Right. So Shan had a question, which says that I got into Stephens but ended up going to NM College. Does the college for undergrad make a difference for MBA?
I don't know how to answer this question very well. I think if I look at the quantitative measurements of an Indian B school admission process, I don't think the college that you are coming from really makes a lot of difference. So Charita, you can speak more to it about that. I don't think they really care about the name of the college. I think they care more about like what percentage you got, and do you have work experience or not, and those are some of the things that you are marked on. Whereas if
I think for Indian MBA, at least I can pitch in that it's the quality of your application that matters more rather than where you were. And the thing is that you should be able to make hay of where you are rather than coming from an established place and doing quote unquote nothing with it. So it's actually what you make of what you have rather than worrying about whether or not I got into a good undergrad college or not in the first place. So yeah, continue.
Yeah. And the second thing, I think what I have to think. Wait, sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
Yeah. Do you want
so
to
we were
question?
So we were discussing that Indian MBAs really do not really matter what is the name of your college. For a foreign MBA, I think. For a foreign MBA, I think I am tempted to say that does not matter a lot. But I have seen that there is a pattern that they hire more from the colleges that they have heard the names of before. For example, IIT has become such a big brand name across the world that everybody knows that IIT stands for great quality. And if anybody is applying from an IIT, they treat that IIT, okay, IIT is great. For every other college, I have seen that it is not at that level playing field. So you have to like sort of, for example, when I was applying from Stephens, I had to tell them what is Stephens' ranking, etc. Like what is Stephens good at, and what are the kind of people who really get into Stephens, etc. To give them more of a flavor about Stephens. I think from that perspective, almost all colleges are more or less neutral. Plus, I think from a foreign MBA perspective, colleges, much more than colleges, your job experience matters. What you did exactly in your work, your recommendation letters, those things matter a lot more. Like your college grades matter, but I don't think if you're not from an IIT, I don't think your college matters.
I think, Rajat, that also answers your question about GPA mattering in MBA admissions. Shlok has a question in the comment section which asks, which B-schools did you apply to?
Yeah, so I had applied in India. I had written my CAT and gotten through.
Which year did you attempt the CAT?
This was in 2016 December that I had written my CAT. Like, so 2 years, like I graduated with you in 2014, so 2 years of work experience 2016. So 2016 December I had written my CAT. So 2017 I would be joining an IIM. So yeah, so that was there. And in the business schools abroad, I would admit I was a little bit lazy. So I had applied to 3 colleges. I had applied to Columbia, to Wharton, and to Stanford. And Columbia has this thing that I had applied to the early decision round of Columbia because I was at a hedge fund, and then everybody in the hedge fund world treats Columbia because of Warren Buffett. Like today was incidentally the Berkshire Hathaway's annual shareholder meeting, and I was listening to that for 4 hours. Yeah, for 4 hours today, and having a lot of discussions with my people. So yeah. So Columbia, like everybody across me was very gung ho about Columbia, so I'd applied to that early decision. And if you apply early decision and get through, they make you sign a waiver that you have to drop out of everything.
Oh, okay. I think Kusum Anjali has a question in the comment section. It says, if a candidate wants to do business in India but lacks good exposure, good graduation, and clarity about business, do you really think an MBA degree will help him or her in at least getting a direction?
Okay, so if you are looking to do business in India, so I think there are 2 ways of interpreting it. One is the classical old style way of thinking about business kar rahe ho, and the second thing is thinking about and the second thing is like what like millennials mostly call it as like entrepreneurship. So if you were thinking about business, let's say if your family has a business in India, etc., and it's so then you don't really need an MBA degree to get into your family business. Whereas even if you want to do an entrepreneurship, I don't think you really need to do an MBA is not a necessity if you want to really do a business in India. You've seen tons and tons of examples of people who are dropouts of colleges who have just done their bachelor's degree and now successfully done unicorns. So it's not a necessary degree, but what I would say when your question is more around will it help him or her in at least getting a direction. So my 2 cents about getting a direction in and like about what business or what field do you want to be an entrepreneur is thinking about what problem are you really excited to solve for, because you were sort of married to that problem and to that business for a long time. Like an entrepreneur journey is not a 1 year or a 2 year journey that you are embarking upon. It is like a decade plus journey at least. You have to really be passionate about the problem that you're looking to solve for. It can be any problem, literally any problem, but as long as you're passionate about your problem, then that's your business.
Right. So that was insightful, Sambodhi. So now moving on to the third section of the entire session, which is about application process. So my first question to you would be, what elements would your profile would be useful for an Ivy League B school admission?
Sure. Okay, so let me try to break it down into its constituents. And I would try to break it down from the perspective of how an admissions officer sitting in an Ivy League admissions office is really looking at someone's
In
profile.
candidacy.
So, yeah, someone's candidacy, exactly. So the first thing that the person is looking for is the essay. The admission essay, every college has a standard one, two, or three questions that they are asking, and you have to answer those questions. That's what you are judged on primarily. The second thing is a lot of quantitative data points about, let's say, what was your GMAT score, your GPA, and your extracurricular activities, etc., etc. And the third thing is your letters of recommendation that you are getting from your wherever you work from. So these are the main three elements in your admissions package which constitutes your candidate. So in order to make your great essay, so an essay is sort of like, Indians do not really write a lot of essays. So that is some part a lot of us struggle with when people are writing these essays, because one thing that we have to understand is people are seeing this. The admissions counselors are mostly coming from an American background, and they have seen and they have read so many different essays. And Americans have to write essays for everything. They had to write an essay even for going to undergrad colleges. So they are typically more equipped at writing essays than Indians are. So it's probably a lot of people choose to work with a counselor to frame their essays. So that's probably very helpful, just to get to the way in which an American thinks, in which your essay, to get flavor, right? And in the essay, what would really come out is the kind of life experiences that you have had. So that is very useful to highlight and to think about it. Is that what makes you unique? One of the, I think, Sucharita, you would agree to this as well. One thing which a business school really likes to make is that they like to make a playground where they bring in a lot of people from different backgrounds. They want to add diversity in the classroom, and they think that if you have a lot of smart, diverse people, then they will learn
the richness of content being discussed in class.
Yeah, and as well as your life experiences, you're learning so much from every other person, etc., etc., and that really enhances your experience during the entire MBA. So you have to really think about what makes you unique and make that stand out in your essay. So that was the essay part. The second part was the quantitative factors, such as your scores and your resume. I think those are pretty straightforward. As with any quantitative metrics, the higher the better. So generally, Indians are if you look at a foreign MBA school, because they have a substantial part of people coming from the US, and Indians, supply demand, there is a mismatch when it comes from Indians. Let's say someone from, I'm not picking in any country, let's say someone from Ghana is applying. It's unlikely that someone from Ghana would have applied to that same school in the same year. So that person would probably have an easier way in because of the diversity element than someone from India, because there are so many of us applying. Typically Indians tend to score. So I think foreign
MBA schools not just maintain a profile-wise diversity, but also geographical diversity, right?
Yes. Yeah. So they don't want, let's say,
too many Indians crowded.
Too many Indians, too many Chinese people. Demographically speaking, in the world population, 1/6 are Indians, 1/6 are Chinese people. But you would not see 1/6 of a business school being Chinese or 1/6 of a business school being Indian. There would be lesser representation of that. So that would make it
in the first place.
Yeah, that would make it slightly more challenging for an Indian to get in. So you have to be in the higher percentiles of the rankings. Let's say, for example, in Columbia Business School, the average GMAT score of the incoming class was somewhere around 730-ish. I had a 750 in my GMAT, and I was wondering whether I should give it again or not.
So how did you look forward to financing your MBA in the first place? Because a foreign MBA is considerably more expensive than an Indian MBA.
Yeah. So I think when I was looking at financing, three main sources. So using a little bit of savings that I had from my job in India, not substantial, probably would cover around 20-25% of the total MBA cost. Okay, rough numbers about the total MBA cost to begin with. The ballpark figure without any scholarships is at least for Columbia, it's around $110,000 per year. So which would make it roughly around 1.5 crores for the 2 years. Uh, and so the ways of financing it is firstly your personal capital. Your personal capital will come from two sources. One from whatever savings you have before school. Second is whatever you're getting from your internship. Contributing to these two, I think would be around 30% of my business school like total expenditure. The second thing is scholarships, and this is where I think this is why I think I should have probably retaken my GMAT. Like I
What
spoke to
was
a
your
few people
GMAT
and I
score?
750. I realized that 750 is a probably a good enough score to get into Columbia, but I did not know that the higher the score, the better the chance of getting a merit scholarship. So I had written my GMAT only once at that point of time. I think that if I written it again, I probably could have like gotten a better score and probably would have had a better shot at getting a merit-based scholarship. So there are two types of scholarship. One is merit-based, which is given based on the basis of your scores or grades, and the second is your need-based scholarships. A lot of people also get a small amount of need-based scholarship, but that is like need-based scholarship is generally smaller in quantum than the merit-based scholarship. So I got some amount of merit-based scholarship, but in the second year, because I was in the top 10% of my first year batch, I was given an additional merit scholarship. So that helped. So I would say that scholarship would be roughly around 20% of it. So personal plus scholarship would be around 50% of it, and the remaining 50% I have taken.
Right. So, so not sarcastic has a question in the comment section which says, how far does participation in NGOs working for non-profits play a role in the application process?
Yeah. So I think it's a great question. A lot of people feel that an NGO can definitely bring a big boost to your CV. And I sort of agree with that. I think there are two ways at an NGO and working at an NGO. Like, and I'm assuming that this person is not working full time in an NGO, is working only part time in an NGO beside his or her actual work experience. Is that a correct assumption to make?
I guess, yeah, that's fair.
So if that is the case, so an NGO will be beneficial in two perspectives. One, it would add a little bit of diversity to your application. So that is always beneficial. But secondly, I think this can be a really, really big like sixer if you're able to drive home this point that and working with an NGO can be a very, very unique experience and can really like shape how you think about a lot of different things and can make you stand out. For example, so I don't know if you remember Aditya, Ojasvi, and I and Chetan as well. We had started this thing called Insta Help, and that was an incredible experience for all of us. Like going to Delhi slums and understanding what is the problem that people are facing in their personal safety aspects, and like conducting workshops with them, etc. So that really helped me. Like though I did not leverage a lot of InstaHelp when I was writing my Columbia application, because Columbia application was largely like hedge fund. Columbia is great with hedge fund, so I want to be at Columbia. But yeah, it definitely taught me a lot about entrepreneurship. It definitely like I have carried forward that experience, and when I'm learning about entrepreneurship here, that helps me a lot, and it probably helped me stand out a little bit among candidates as well.
Right. So quickly moving on to the last section of the session, which is life after Columbia. So what do you think are the opportunities for you after Columbia, and has there been any college placement scenario similar to Indian B schools?
Sure. So Charita, just a quick question there. What would you say would be the percentage of people who get placements through the college placement, like similar to the whatever
in
the
Ahmedabad?
placement thingy? Yeah.
So I think most of the batch, like more than 90, maybe 95% of the batch takes up college placements. Since you mentioned earlier that the entrepreneurial spirit is quite still rare or in its nascent stages, even at IME. So we do have, structures in place to boost entrepreneurial spirit, but I think that's still not quite taken up as it should have. So I would say comfortably around more than 90% of the batch gets placed in the process, the placement process that is there at A.
Got it. So the stats roughly differ from foreign, like one business school to another in the US, but roughly there are three elements where people head to after school. First is obviously the on-campus route, where companies come on campus, have interviews on campus and select people. The second is what we call here the enterprise recruiting route, which is people using the college alumni network and the college professor network and their own experiences to leverage a job. So basically, like you are going ahead and you are searching a job on your own based on what you have learned in your MBA or the people that you have interacted with during your MBA. And the third is becoming an entrepreneur. That is a fair amount of the proportions are significant in all the three buckets. The numbers differ from year to year, but I would say that only around half to two-thirds of the batch will actually end up getting a quote-unquote on-campus recruiting job, which is the typical job that you would see coming out of like an IIM Ahmedabad. However, I was slightly risk averse, and I think fingers crossed, I think that decision would still hold true. That I chose to go through the on-campus recruiting path. The on-campus recruiting path, the difference between that and the enterprise path is that on-campus recruiting happens around the similar time as well when your on-campus recruiting happens, is that you have it the pre-final semester, not in the final semester. So that happened in a pre-COVID world. And now, and the enterprise recruiting, everything happens in this semester. So that is happening in the COVID world. So if I would have taken that decision to stick around with the enterprise recruiting part and like to network on my own and get a job here, I would have been stuck in a really bad place right now.
Right. So Vidushi actually has a question on changing scenarios, and she's asking how easy or difficult is it to find a decent placement in US after change in immigration rules?
See, I don't know what exact change in immigration rule is she referring to. Immigration rules have been changing, and I think on average, I have seen
I
a
think
few
it's about
firms.
the H-1B visa holders not being able to work, or I don't know, it's something of that. Is it something on those lines?
So H1B, so the president said something, but as nothing has been put into action yet, so I don't think any implication of that has come into the real world as of now. But over the years, we have seen certain like movement away from hiring H1B workers, workers on H1B versus hiring locally.
Right.
Work a lot
Okay.
with IT companies, invest in IT companies when I was in India. So I have seen this trend happening for them as well. Like over the last 5-10 years, like the proportion of Indians that they would send to the US to work on H1B visas versus the proportion of local hires. The second part has gone up a lot. Like so if you see the on-site offshore mix, the on-site part has gone up a lot for them, and they are hiring probably lesser amount of internationals. But having said that, that number is still significant enough, and I haven't really seen that. I would not really see that my previous batch had a much easier networking or recruiting process than what like those are really good things.
Right. So what would be your goals and aspirations after, like, having done your MBA from Columbia? What will be your short-term and long-term goals? If you can just
Yeah.
shed some light on that.
Sure. So as I said, my long-term goal is to be an entrepreneur in India. I haven't decided what problem exactly I'm looking to solve for, but I think I've kept that question really open because my internal goal is I want to start my own company at the age of 35, and I will start problem hunting a couple of years before that, and really looking forward, like matching my skill sets and to the problems which are exist in the real world. In the short run, I plan to work in consulting here. So I have gotten a job here with McKinsey in New York. So hopefully that one never knows in this world.
Right.
I am scheduled to join in a month.
Huh.
Yeah.
Also, Anirudh has a question: 2-year versus 1-year MBA. If you want to change your field, what should you go for? Or does either work?
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So I think the primary advantage of a 2-year MBA versus a 1-year MBA is that it gives you more time to do job searching. Like if you're looking primarily from the job search perspective, obviously like your experience will be way shorter in a 1-year experience versus a 2-year experience. But just from a jobs perspective, the 2-year perspective just gives you a lot more opportunity to change your job. So as our career management center says here, that there are 3 aspects that you're looking at when you're looking at a job. One is your geography, second is your industry, third is your function. So it's very difficult to change all 3 of them. So I would say that if you're looking to change all 3 of them, let's say you were working in an oil and gas field in India, in the K3, in the Krishna Godavari basin, and now you want to be a consultant in the US. That's a significant amount of change because you're changing all the 3 verticals. That would probably take a little bit more time. But if you're looking to, let's say you were a data analyst in India and now you want to be a data analyst in the US, it's probably an easier. So depending on the time you need to recruit into a new job, I think you have to look at, and obviously the cost you want to incur for it, you have to look at a 1-year versus 2-year MBA.
So can you just quickly wrap up the session by talking about your expectation of an ROI from an Columbia MBA experience?
Okay. Yeah. So Columbia has been a very enriching experience. I think like with every step that I have taken, like right from Coach Bihar to Delhi to working in Mumbai and then Singapore and then coming to Columbia, I have learned a lot, and that is one goal I have in my life. I have in fact, as Charita knows about this, I have in fact started a project called the Learning Project, where I aim to learn one new thing every day. So learning is a constant in my life, and I think Columbia has given me a lot of learning, and I want to keep continuing to learn. And I hopefully that like I think in consulting as well, I would continue learning new things every day, and that is something that I want to do. Like have using my learning to solve a real life problem when I become an entrepreneur.
That really sounds good, Sambodhi. And any payback period expectations? Last question.
Sure. So from a payback period expectation, I think when you're looking at a statistic, you would see that at a school like the top 10 business school, the average salary that you can expect after graduation is somewhere around $125,000 to $150,000, which is roughly around 1 crore, let's say. Like so 70 lakhs to 1 crore, I would say, that is their expectation. So you were putting in like the total cost of admission was 1.5 crores. Let's say you would get some money from your internship as well. So let's put that as 1.2 crores. So 1.2 crores is your net cost, and this is the accounting cost of it. We are not adding the cost of it. I was thinking about this, like the opportunity cost of it is that you are giving up 2 years of work experience.
That's the
like,
economist way of doing things. We are not going there, yeah.
Yeah, so you can add that, and then you have to divide it by, let's say, whatever the salary that you are looking at post school, and also depends upon like what like field that you are really looking at. The average is like, because there are so many jobs which are there, which is the average. I would say that the mean will not be equal to the median, will not be equal to the mode there. So let's say an investment banker would be earning significantly more than that average salary whereas someone who is choosing to be being an entrepreneur will not be earning
I
that
think
much
we
in
have
the
just
first year.
30 seconds left. So thank you guys for this session, and thank you so much, Sambodhi, for 1 hour of your precious
For
time.
having me. This was amazing doing this with you, like reliving college
Right.
days and
So,
everything.
guys, you can put in your feedback in the feedback form link that is on our page, and look forward to hearing back from you guys. Any questions, you can put it in the form as well, and we'll address it. Okay, bye.